Yerushalayim, 1954. What a festive wedding it was. The words of Torah, the singing, the dancing went on for hours. Such joy, such happiness, when suddenly the father of the groom asked for silence. He was a famous Rosh Yeshiva from Europe, who, through Hashgacha Pratis, divine providence, had managed to escape the Holocaust and make his way to Eretz Yisrael. This man had spent almost all of his adult life bedridden. The doctors wanted to amputate his legs, but somehow he was miraculously brought to his son's wedding. So we all came in close to his stretcher near the head of the table in order to hear what he had to say.
When I was young, I learned in the yeshiva of Stutzin. We were about 30 bochrim learning in the shul. Our little yeshiva was very much a part of the community. There was Rav, the Shiker. There was even a town Shiker, a drunkard. We called him Itche the Shiker. Nobody ever knew where this Itche lived, because most of the time he was in the shul. He used to drink until he fell asleep somewhere. And when he woke up, he drank again. The same thing all the time. The children were always making fun of him, pulling on his beard and the end of his coat. We were all sure that he didn't keep anything of the mitzvahs. How could he? He was always drunk or asleep. One cold winter night, we were sitting and learning. Itche was sleeping on one of the benches, snoring away. But suddenly we feel the cold coming in. The doors of the Bes Medrash opened, and in comes Yiddish Balagola, a wagon driver. Was he upset?
Yidden! My wagon overturned just outside of town and my horse is trapped underneath. If a few of you could help, we can get him out.
Now, in those days, I'm sorry to say, we were self-righteous indeed. Instead of jumping up to help this Jew, we began to discuss the question, or like the great sages we thought we were. Is a Jew permitted to interrupt his Torah learning in order to save the life of a horse? We decided that learning was more important. So we refused to come to the rescue of this unfortunate Jew.
Please, brothers, if not for the horse, my livelihood, my parnassa depends on it.
But no, our minds were made up. Finally, the driver left the Bes Medrash by himself, alone, disappointed, and I think broken-hearted that his fellow Yidden wouldn't help him a bit. As for our part, we continued with our learning, when suddenly Itche the Shiker wakes up and begins to yell like we have never heard before.
What's the matter with you, Bochrim? Why, you'd better all get up quick and run and help that poor Jew before his horse freezes to death. And if you don't, why, you yourselves won't be able to walk on your own two legs. Chas v'sholom.
I answered him sarcastically, Itche, since when are you a Rav? But he didn't say anything after that. After about half an hour, the Jew came back. He was hysterical.
Please, I beg of you, come help before it's too late.
But again, we wouldn't budge. We began to discuss it again. Is it permitted to interrupt our learning? What exactly is our mitzvah here? Finally, we agreed that the Torah permitted us to help in such a case. Believe it or not, I think something Itche the Shiker said finally made an impression on us. We followed him out of the synagogue down a dark, cold street. But we were too late. The horse was lying there, no longer part of this world. So we forgot about it and went back to learn. The next morning, when I came into the Bes Medrash, the other bochrim told me that Itche was there earlier looking for me. And when I saw him, I went over and asked him what he wanted. He said to me in a very calm way,
I have a favor to ask of you. I'm going to die tonight, and I'd like you to come to my house to be there for the Yitzias Neshama when my soul leaves my body.
Now, what did I do? I laughed. But Itche was very serious, and he asked me again. So I asked him where he lived, since nobody knew. At the end of the city, he told me, on the street on the left, in an abandoned, broken-down shed. So that night, I thought to myself, I have to learn tonight anyway, so I might as well learn by Itche the Shiker. He was such a mystery, that Itche. I took my Gemara and went out to find Itche's place. When I got there, I found him sleeping away. He was probably drunk again, I figured, so I sat down to learn. After a few hours, I got impatient. What do I need it for? What's the Drenman cup for? I'm leaving. But as I began to leave, all of a sudden, I heard Itche talking to me.
Don't go. Exactly 4 a.m, I'm going to die. And I want you to tell the Chevra Kadisha, the Holy Burial Society, to bury me next to the Tzaddik, the Gaon, who's buried in the old cemetery.
I told him, Itche, you're really a meshuggah. You don't even put on tefillin, and you want to be buried next to the Tzaddik. I guess I hurt his feelings, because he said,
What do you mean I don't put on tefillin? Look in that chest over there, and you'll find my tefillin.
I went and opened the chest. I was so surprised to see the most beautiful Mahuder tefillin. How much they were worth, I had no idea. I really was amazed. I would never have believed it if I didn't see it with my own eyes. So I said to Itche, even if I tell the Chevra Kadisha, they won't listen to me.
Under the chest is a small box. In it you'll find my manuscripts. Show them to the rabbi and the Chevra Kadisha. Then they'll agree to bury me where I request.
I found the notebooks and I began reading. I couldn't believe my own eyes. The deepest Kabbalistic secrets were written on those pages. I didn't even begin to understand them. But it was then that I realized that Itche the Shiker, lying on his wooden mattress, ready to depart this world, was really one of the Lamed Vov Tzaddikim, a real live hidden tzaddik. Unbelievable. But how we had made fun of him. Oy, oy. And as he promised, at exactly 4 a.m, he yelled with all of his strength,
My Yisrael!
and he died. I ran immediately to fetch the Chevra Kadisha and the rabbi. I told him the whole story and showed them the notebooks. But they said there was no place available next to the old tzaddik's grave, so it is impossible to fulfill his last wish. For many years already they were using the new cemetery because the old one was filled up. Anyway, they agreed to come with me to look if there was any place near the grave of the old tzaddik in the old cemetery. And wouldn't you know, we found a place empty right next to the old tzaddik. I guess nobody was ever holy enough to be buried there. The whole city heard the story that morning, and there was a very big funeral. I always remembered Itche, and I realized now that the sickness in my legs began when I didn't listen to Itche's warnings, that I'd better go help that Jew if I wanted use of my own legs.
The family and guests were crying, and the wedding celebration was quieted for a while until the music began again. When I went home after the wedding that night, I thought a lot about the Rosh Yeshiva story, and I decided to write to the Lubavitcher Rebbe Shlita about this Rosh Yeshiva, to ask him to pray for him and to bless him to be well again. I soon received a reply from the Rebbe Shlita. I'll read it to you. Tell the Rav to accept upon himself the mandates of the holy Rebbe Rayatz, the previous Rebbe, to learn every day Chitas, Chumash, Tehillim, and Tanya, and not only he, but all those who love him and accept his rulings should also learn Chitas daily, And in the merit of this walking in the ways of the Holy Rebbe, Hashem Yisborach should give him back his legs to walk, also physically. When I received this letter, I went right over to the house of the Rosh Yeshiva and showed it to him. He was suddenly filled with joy. He was smiling and kissing the... I asked him to give me back the letter, since it was addressed to me. But he really wanted to have it, at least for a while, so I agreed. I came back to visit him half a year later, and found him sitting in a chair, already able to use his legs quite a bit. The doctors had given up on the use of those legs, I thought to myself, and now he's almost all cured. Unbelievable! The Rebbe Shlita never ceases to amaze me. And do you know something? The Rosh Yeshiva did his part as well. People have told me that for the rest of his life, the Rosh Yeshiva asked all who came to speak with him to please learn Chitas every day.